President Barack Obama today is announcing plans to move forward with new laws on gun control. Washington Bureau Chief Bryn Weese is standing by live with more on the story. He joins us now from the U.S. Capitol. So, Bryn, the president announcing that a task force will be established to look into new policy ideas. So what specifically will this task force be doing?
Well, what's interesting, Sneha, about the announcement today, one, Joe Biden, of course, will be heading up this task force. He, as a senator in 1994, really stick-handled Bill Clinton's assault rifle ban through Congress. As you know, it lasted for 10 years, expired in 2004. So Joe Biden being at the head of this task force, I think for many people shows that the president is keen to act on this. And the other interesting thing here, and the president even acknowledged that these massacres, this issue is very complex. It's not simply targeting guns in the equation, but Biden will also be looking at access to mental health treatments, even the U.S. culture that glorifies gun violence. And the other interesting thing here, Sneha, was that President Obama himself said in this press conference that there seems to be growing support among Americans for tighter gun controls, for someone to look at this issue more broadly and see if anything can be done to prevent these kind of massacres. Watch this.
The good news is there's already a growing consensus for us to build from. A majority of Americans support banning the sale of military-style assault weapons. A majority of Americans support banning the sale of high-capacity ammunition clips. A majority of Americans support laws requiring background checks before all gun purchases so that criminals can't take advantage of legal loopholes to buy a gun from somebody who won't take the responsibility of doing a background check at all.
And Bryn, we already know that Senator Dianne Feinstein has plans to table a gun control bill of her own in the new year. What does her bill aim to do, and is it different from what the task force is looking at?
It actually seems, Sneha, as if these measures are very similar. The White House has expressed support of Feinstein's bill, which she promises to bring in on the first day of Congress. And what this would do, in a nutshell, it would reinstate the Bill Clinton assault weapons ban that was brought into effect in 1994 and expired under George W. Bush in 2004. It has never been renewed. It would ban the sale and the transfer and the importation of certain assault weapons. These would be semi-automatic rifles. The problem here is, of course, many hunting rifles are also semi-automatic, and there's very little difference between them. But Feinstein has said her bill would exempt some 900 semi-automatic firearms, so that may be good for the firearms community. The other issue here in Feinstein's bill is banning, as you heard from the president there, banning high-round, high-capacity magazines and clips. Feinstein's bill would cap them at 10, and that's actually the law that we have in Canada, that semi-automatic firearms can't hold more than 10 rounds, even when 22 long rifle rounds. So we could see some tweaking of the bill to match perhaps Biden's recommendations, but we'll see whether it gets any traction in Congress. It would appear that President Obama's task force headed up by Joe Biden might trump Dianne Feinstein's efforts in Congress. It would be silly perhaps to have two different bills, two different gun control measures moving forward at the same time. So maybe Dianne Feinstein simply brought her bill forward as a way of pressuring the administration to act as well.
And what about the NRA, a very powerful lobby group in the U.S.? Are we hearing from that group as well as Republicans in terms of what they think about these reforms and new policy ideas?
Yeah, that's right, Sneha. The firearms community had been quite silent after the shooting in Connecticut, and just late yesterday, early today, the NRA released a statement explaining perhaps why they'd been so silent. In fact, their Facebook page had been deactivated and their Twitter account had gone silent. Here's what they said from the statement, quote, "Out of respect for the families and as a matter of common decency, we have given time for mourning, prayer, and a full investigation of the facts before commenting. The NRA is prepared to offer meaningful contributions to help make sure this never happens again." And what's interesting here, Sneha, if you consider the NRA is expressing some cooperation, they're willing to help, and the fact that the White House is moving forward with this task force, if in that tent it includes the gun industry, the NRA and shooters associations, it could perhaps lead to very meaningful legislation that is supported by the gun community. So we'll see whether Joe Biden reaches out to the NRA and other similar groups in their discussions as part of this task force.
All right. Thank you, Bryn. That is our Washington Bureau Chief Bryn Weese in D.C.